Hi everyone, my name is Ann Rogers. I'm a Research Data Manager at PMA, and the purpose of this video is to show you how to use the stash and pop functions of GitKraken. If you are unfamiliar with GitHub or GitKraken, please see our other videos, the GitHub SOP, or the GitKraken support website. Now, what's happening in this repository? You can see in this repository that we have a template update branch 2019 October 10th AR with uncommitted changes in the work in progress, and we have a round 6 branch for data collection. For example, say that you have been making these changes but you're not ready to commit them yet, and a colleague lets you know that you need to make updates to the cleaning by RE files in the round 6 branch. Well, you could just switch to the round 6 branch, but that would bring your uncommitted changes from the template update branch into the round of data collection branch. And as we know, changes that are template updates should always stay in the template update branches until they've been approved via a pull request into the master branch. So what can we do to avoid pulling our uncommitted changes from branch to branch? That's where stashing comes in. Let's go back to the template update branch. So again, we're in the situation where we want to update the cleaning by RE files in the round 6 branch, but we don't want to bring our template update changes that haven't been approved yet into that branch. So what we can do is in the template update branch, we can click this button, Stash. What stashing does is it takes your uncommitted changes in the work in progress and stores them for later use. The changes are no longer in your do files in the working directory. They are stored and saved in GitKraken, and you can revisit them at a later date. So now we can go to the round 6 branch and update the cleaning by RE files without having the changes from the template update branch in our do files. So let's do that. All right, so now we've made our update to the cleaning by RE do files. As you can see here, the new commit in the round 6 branch. We want to go back to our template update branch and continue working on those template update changes we were making. So we can go here, navigate back to that branch, and we still have our stash right here. And what we can do, click on the stash, and then we have this button in the toolbar labeled Pop. And now our stash is back in the work in progress, and all the changes are back in our working directory. The stash and pop functions are useful because they allow you to navigate working back and forth between different branches when you're not ready to make commits. Besides pop, you can also do 2 other things when you have a stash. So let's stash this change again and explore what those other 2 things are. Stash, and now if I right click on the stash, I have the options to apply the stash, pop the stash, or delete the stash. We've already seen what popping does, but now let's talk about applying and deleting. Deleting is fairly obvious. It deletes the changes in the stash. You would have to redo those changes if you wanted them to actually be incorporated in your branch. The one that is more interesting is apply. If I right-click Apply, all the changes that were in my stash are put in the work in progress, but my stash remains available to me. This is unlike popping, which again puts the changes into your work in progress, but then deletes the stash. Now, this doesn't make much sense to do in the branch where you made the stash, because then, as you can see here, we have the stash and the work in progress coming off of the same branch. So let's discard these applied changes. But if we'd gone to the round 6 branch and wanted to apply these changes, we could click Apply Stash, and all of the changes in the stash are now applied to the round 6 branch. Obviously, in this example, we would not want to do that because, again, as we've said, these are template update changes that haven't been approved. They don't belong in the round 6 branch. So discard those changes again. And finally, the delete function. Delete stash. It will warn you that this is destructive, and then your stash goes away completely. So stashing allows us to save our work and then come back to it at a later point if we need to work in other branches in the meantime. And with a stash, you can apply the changes in it to any branch, or you can pop the changes in a branch, which applies and then deletes the stash, or you can just delete the stash if you think you don't want to keep any of those changes. Now, how does PMA use stashing? Well, as we all know, in all of the parent files, we have the macros for the directories, and each of those directory macros are specific to each person. So what stashing can do is store your macro changes for your directories, and then every time you go into a new branch, you can apply your macros directly to the branch and not have to change them manually. Let's show you an example. So I've updated my directory macros in the parent file. They are the CSV, the data, and the do file directories. And that's a change that I wouldn't want to push to GitHub because those are my directories, nobody else needs them. But I'm going to want them in every single branch that I'm working in because how else will I test my do files unless the directories are correct? So what you can do is stash your changes and then move into a different branch, and you can pop them, and your macros are correct now in the other branch. And it's an easy way to make sure your directory macros are always correct no matter which branch you're working in. And for added help, you can name your stash by clicking here and typing directory macros, and then when you stash it, it lets you know exactly what your stash is. Now, the final thing I want to show you in stashing is what is called an auto stash, which is when GitKraken creates a stash without your input. This happens when a change you make on your local device conflicts with a change someone else has pushed to the same branch. So let me show you an example. So now when we look at the repository, we can see that the round 6 branch has been updated by someone else, and we need to pull their changes in. Well, let's see what happens when we click pull. We get a bunch of errors from GitKraken. It is very unhappy with us. And you'll notice now you'll see a stash that says auto stash. This is what happens when GitKraken finds a merge conflict between the changes we've made locally and the changes that someone else has pushed. So let's go to the conflicted file. We can see that the conflicted file is the cleaning by RE file, so let's check it out. It looks like somebody pushed to GitHub replacing a missing link or an incorrect link, and we have dropped a duplicate. Well, we don't want to pick one or the other of these changes. We want to keep both of them. So let's select A and B. And now if we scroll down to the output, we'll see that both lines of code are in the output do file, one on top of the other. So let's click Save. And now we're no longer resolving a conflict. Instead, we are making a commit. So let's look at both files that are in the staged pane before we make our commit. Well, this includes our change that we'd made in the cleaning by RE file, But we have the cleaning by RE file and the parent file because the parent file was in our work in progress. We don't want to commit the parent file. So let's unstage that file and then commit the cleaning by RE female file. Now you'll see we've made our commit after resolving the merge error, and the stash is still there. That's because when an auto stash is generated, it works just like applying a stash. It applies the changes, but doesn't delete the stash. If we try to pop the stash, what it will do is generate a merge conflict, and it will apply the stash but not delete it. So basically, this stash will stay here forever, and every time you try to pop it, it will continue to create merge conflicts. So after you have addressed a merge conflict from an auto stash, you can right-click, delete stash. Because if you click pop, you will click pop, and the file conflict happens again, and and it's the exact same change as before. So let's just delete the stash. Delete. If you happen to pop a stash, auto stash twice, just select your original resolved merge conflict and save. Now it wants you to make a commit again, but as you can see here in the staged files, it's just the parent file macros. So you can unstage those and remove the commit message. And that's that for stashing. Thanks for watching this video, and please watch our other ones.